Yo, what's up, y'all? It's JD and James back with another live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about insecurities. So, earlier, I dropped a video on the channel, on my Growth Through Calisthenics channel, about how we can kill our insecurities. And me and James just want to chop it up with you guys about, insecurities, how we, can get rid of these insecurities, some of the reasons why we might actually even have these insecurities in the first place. But before we get into the live stream, if you guys are new to the channel and you're watching this on the playback, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in growth content. Subscribe to both channels, High Octane Calisthenics and Growth Through Calisthenics. And also, if you guys are looking to get in the best shape of your life, hit up my website, travelcynics.com. You can do one-on-one coaching with me. If you guys are looking for a custom calisthenics program, hit up 12weekshred.com. And another thing I want to talk about before we get into the live stream is me and James mastermind group. It's a growth mastermind, and we're getting ready to launch next week. So for the first week, we're gonna offer $25 to get into. It's gonna be $25 a month to get into the growth mastermind group. For those of you who sign up afterwards, the price is gonna go up on the growth mastermind. But we're gonna do 2 sessions per month, and we're going to have a bunch of stuff that goes into it. So if you guys are interested and you guys want to learn more about it, email me at travelcynics@yahoo.com, and we're going to get started on that growth mastermind ASAP. So we'll probably start our first session probably next week sometime. So we already got a few people lined up, but we're going to get into the video now. Noel Jordan says, yo, what's going on, Noel Jordan? And so basically what I was talking about earlier in the video that I dropped was basically how a lot of times we have insecurities that we can change, and then we have insecurities that are certain things that we can't change about ourselves. For instance, like height. You know, a lot of guys maybe, you hear it all the time with women. They want to date a guy who's 6 feet tall or over, or whatever it may be. And some guy who's under 6 feet tall might have an insecurity about his height, like, oh, maybe I'm not tall enough, maybe I'm not good enough. Even for me, believe it or not, I'm 6 feet tall. When I was younger, I played basketball all the way up until college. So the people who I was hanging around were all way taller than me. All of my friends when I was growing up were way taller than me. One of my best friend in high school was like 6'5" or 6'4", and then one of my other best friends was like 6'7". So everybody was towering over me. So I never really felt like I was tall, to completely honest with you. And when it came down to basketball, I always kind of had like, oh well, I got to do more because I'm shorter than everybody else or whatever. But in all reality, in the grand scheme of things, I'm actually above average height. But another thing about a lot of insecurities that we have, there's a little bit of truth to them. And a lot of times these are the ones that we can actually change. Like say, for instance, we're overweight. If we're overweight, that's something that's completely in our control. If we're financially, in a bad place, that's something that we can control. So, there's a lot of times where we have to take these insecurities and, like I made an analogy earlier in my video, is treat them like debt. There's going to be small things that we can change. Let's knock the small things off first, and then we'll move on to the more difficult things to change after that. Or we can just do a little bit on every single one of them and knock all these insecurities off. And before I let James take over, one thing that I've noticed along my journey is, for somebody like myself who I've had insecurities in the past, where things that I obviously could change and I've changed them, and then we all have insecurities that we can't change. For instance, like we said, height or whatever it may be. One thing you'll realize is that when you take care of all the stuff and self-improve in all the ways that you do have control over, you'll realize the things that you don't have control over don't have as much power over you as you thought they did to begin with. You're not even going to be worried about some of those insecurities that you had, like, oh, well, I wish I was 6'4". Like, you don't even care because things are going so good for you in your life because you've already self-improved in so many different ways that you're not even worried about these things that are out of your control.
Yeah, man. I think too with these insecurities, I definitely think almost every single one of them stems from some sort of truth. And I think the worst thing to do is like try to play delusional and basically just try to tell yourself, oh, it's all okay. When the truth is, no, there is some truth behind what you're thinking. And that's why it keeps cropping back up. So, I mean, even to use the height one, for example, it's kind of funny because My brother's actually 6'5", and one of his biggest insecurities is that he's too tall. He doesn't want to be that tall. So it's kind of a funny thing how it can always, work both ways. But I mean, that's actually a perfect one to kind of touch on because it's out of people's control and there is some truth to it. But then at the same time, I think the reason why people get so stuck on it is because they want to use that as an excuse to not do all the things that they should be doing. They want to use that as an excuse to not be working as hard as they should be, to not be accomplishing all the different goals they should be accomplishing. I mean, the truth is, it's like, yeah, most women prefer taller men. But if you actually want to break it down, I guess, I mean, I think that's the only reason most people care about the height. Like in your case, though, it might have been you wanted to play basketball. So that might have been why you cared about the height more. But I honestly don't think it's really as much of an advantage one-on-one with women. And I've kind of talked about this before. I think it's more of an advantage if you think about going to parties. You're naturally going to draw more attention. People's eyes are always going to go to the taller person. I mean, I think even guys do the same thing with women to a certain extent, right? If you meet a woman with her friend and, one person, one of the girls is 5'4", the other one's 5'8", even if the 5'4" one's hotter, your eye's naturally going to gravitate towards the taller one. It's kind of built into our human instinct. We view taller people as being leaders. And to me, the worst thing to do is to try to pretend like that doesn't exist, because what's going to happen in life is you're going to find all the evidence that it does exist. So if you're trying to delude your mind that there's no advantages or benefits you get from being tall, you're going to find yourself constantly at odds with reality. The truth is that you have to accept, yes, you didn't get blessed with it. Life's not fair. Deal with it. That's kind of, my take on insecurities, is that you have to acknowledge that, yes, they're true, most of them. And, yes, you might not have been born, a billionaire. You might not have been born with rich parents. You might not have been born with a lot of different advantages, but that doesn't give you an excuse not to play your best hand. So it's like, I think a lot of times the reason why people want to get stuck on it is because then you could feel better about not giving everything you could have to a pursuit. It's like, I kind of view this as the exact same thing with, muscle genetics. People want to talk about, oh, I just wasn't born genetically gifted with wide shoulders, or I wasn't genetically gifted with good ab symmetry. So it's like, okay, well, I don't even have to eat healthy. I don't even have to bother, pushing myself past my limits, because I wasn't blessed anyways. So it's, give me the free ride. Let me just be lazy and feel content with that.
Yeah. Another thing when it comes down to like letting these things fester, just what like we were talking about earlier, when it comes down to things can compound for us in both directions. So let's just say, for instance, we take care of some of these insecurities and we start, say, for instance, it's where one of our insecurities is that we might be overweight. Okay, we're going to start eating good. We're going to start working out every day. We're going to start moving. And guess what? It's going to start compounding in results. We're going to start building muscle. We're going to start losing fat. We're going to start building up confidence. And before you know it, we're going to be ultra confident. And that weight issue or that weight insecurity that we had is going to go away. And another thing is it can go in the opposite direction as well. So let's just say, for instance, we try to ignore it. We try to suppress it. Oh, a lot of talk nowadays is like body positivity, which, it's definitely good not to beat yourself up. But at the same time, if you have a problem and you're, obese or unhealthy or something like that, it's something that we need to take care of. So, if you don't take care of it and you let yourself keep eating like crap, you let yourself continue to ride the couch, as you like to say, James, it's going to compound. And then 10 years from now, it's going to be so out of control that you're not even going to know where to start. So the longer that we let these things fester, the longer that we let these things compound, the more difficult it is to change. And Tracy Thompson, what's going on, Tracy? My brothers. And we doing good today, man. Just getting another live in, getting the reps in. Me and James actually view this just like we view our workouts, just like we view our work. Like live streams is just like repetitions that we put in calisthenics or weightlifting or whatever other pursuit that we have in life. That's literally what this is all about. Repetitions, sharpening up our minds just like we sharpen up our bodies. And well, Jordan, I feel you. To give your all in order to be the best you. Get used to being uncomfortable. Normally, when you see progress, yeah, exactly. A lot of times, when you're a teenager, when you're 12, 13 years old and you're hitting a growth spurt, you have growing pains. And that's one of the things that's going to happen when it comes down to, getting over a lot of these insecurities. And a lot of times, getting over insecurities is like getting out of your own way. I know me and you were talking about this earlier, James, and I think you actually brought this up. And, insecurities also have a lot to do with gratitude. And we can always compare ourselves to somebody who has more, but a lot of times we don't compare ourselves to somebody who actually has less. And a lot of times being in that gratitude state would allow you to look at, what you have and see that you actually have it in abundance compared to a lot of other people. For instance, if you were born in the United States and, maybe grew up in a lower middle class neighborhood, or you're come from a lower middle class background, to you, you might be the person that lives in the smallest house on your block. You might not have all the fancy tennis shoes and clothes when you growing up, so you might feel sorry for yourself. But then if you take that into comparison with somebody who's growing up in a third world country, you're going to have a lot more gratitude for where you're at. But a lot of times our perspective is skewed because we're kind of in a tunnel vision state. So gratitude definitely has a lot to do with that as well. And go ahead, James.
I was gonna say, yeah, man, gratitude hits the nail on the absolute head on this one. I really think that can be, I guess you could say, the cure for just about all of it. Because really, if you think about it, it's basically saying, you're not grateful, for the life that you were given. So you're basically saying, I'm playing my part, but life didn't give me what I thought I deserved. And really, that's kind of the most ungrateful stance you could ever take, is basically being gifted with so much and then only seeing, I mean, that's like you get gifted with a car, but you're like, oh, it's not the remote startup. Oh, it doesn't have the autopilot. Oh, you only gave me a Mercedes. I wanted the Lamborghini fully. Oh, the Lamborghini. That's not enough. I need the Aston Martin or whatever upgrade there is. If you think about it, it's really a never-ending cycle. And no matter how high up, no matter how gifted you were born, there's always going to be someone else that was gifted with more. And you can either be grateful for all the blessings that you were born with right out of the gate, or you can choose to constantly focus on whatever area you feel like you got jacked in.
I think another thing that we can kind of do is kind of shift our perspective a little bit too, and even look at some of our shortcomings as a blessing in disguise. Because a lot of times our shortcomings in life are blessings in disguise. All it does is just sharpen our tools up a little bit more. Just like you were saying earlier about, like, you can't ignore some of these insecurities that flare up because a lot of times there's a lot of truth involved in them. So if you ignore the fact that you're 5'7" and you're trying to make it to play college basketball, then you're going to not work on your game to a certain extent. You're not going to develop a certain skill set that you're going to need in order to, make up for your lack of height. So, and that works in other areas of your life as well. So, these are things that we kind of need to take in mind. Another thing could be, like, say, for instance, like, if you come from maybe a less privileged background financially, you're going to need to do things and put things in place in order for you to succeed. And you can actually look at your, background of having it a little bit more difficult as an advantage, because it kind of sharpened your tools up, opposed to somebody who might have had everything given. So once you guys are both in a situation competing for a job, both in a situation competing for a spot on a team, the person who's went through more is going to be more adept to deal with struggles, roadblocks, different things of that nature. And I kind of want to just pivot a little bit into another topic that we were discussing before we got on here too, that you were talking about, James. And that's the one about, if you have goals, and a lot of times your goals and killing these insecurities are going to line up as well. So if you have goals, a lot of times, the first thing we want to do is announce to the world, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm about to do this. I'm about to start this. I'm about to create this business. I'm about to start working out and doing calisthenics. So the question is, and this is a question for you guys out there, and you guys can put this in the chat if you guys would like, or in the comment section if you guys are watching this on a playback, is when you have a goal in mind, or when you have something that you're getting ready to start, or something you're getting ready to create, do you think it's better to speak that into existence, tell that to the world, or do you think it's better to kind of grind in silence and work towards your goals in silence? And then once you have actually accomplished your goals, then you let everybody know, or at least everybody's going to see that you've accomplished that goal. So that's kind of a question that me and James have, we want to propose to you guys, and then we actually kind of have a different type of answer when it comes to that. Go ahead, and James, what was your take on that?
Yeah, so this is like kind of an interesting question, because I was always thinking about it, how so many people say, oh, you got to put your goals out there and, tell everyone your goal, speak it into existence. And, I am someone that, believes in manifesting and stuff and putting it out there into the world. But one thing I noticed with like telling people goals, I think you have to be careful with, who you tell your goals to, or I've actually found a lot of times the goals that matter the most to me, I don't like to tell anybody about. To me, that's between me and myself. And to me, there is a certain level of purity in that. I think what happens a lot of times is if you tell your goals to other people, a lot of times, the people that care about you might be swaying your opinion, or maybe even they don't even view that goal as a worthwhile goal. But in your mind, it's like something extremely valuable that you think would be an amazing accomplishment. You think would be, would make your life significantly better accomplishing that goal. But, you might tell that to somebody that really cares about you, and their reaction might be like, whatever, or they might even, dissuade you. And I mean, I think this can affect you in all different types of ways. So I think there's certain people that I've found, it's like if you tell them goals, they're going to actually make you more likely to accomplish those goals. And then there's certain people, I think, in your life that telling them your goals is only going to be adding, a parking brake, or just going to be adding more resistance to you achieving that goal.
Yeah, I think I'm actually gonna. I have something I want to touch on that, but I'm gonna get to some of these comments first. Art says, and thank you for stopping through the live stream, Art. He says, speak, 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 but to yourself. And I definitely agree with that one. Sometimes we can speak things into existence, but we don't necessarily need to speak it out to the world. It doesn't need to be broadcasted over social media. And that's one thing I definitely notice a lot of people doing, is they love to broadcast things over social media and tell people what they're getting ready to do. And honestly, when they don't do it, a lot of times it ends up making them look like a fool. I wake up, look out the window, and thank the Lord, and repeat who and why I am. I feel that one. That's definitely a good perspective right there. And Tracy Thompson, what's going on, Tracy? Again, work in silence because I don't say much anyway. I just do me, and others will my situation for see there's I'm assuming you said see my situation for themselves. Yeah, that's what he said. So I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with moving in silence. But one thing that I kind of notice is that, there's, just like James said earlier, there's certain people who you do want to share your goals with, and there's certain people who you don't necessarily want to tell your goals about. And one thing I've noticed, as far as the people who I do want to tell my goals to, like, say, for instance, I have a goal. I'm going to tell James about it. I'm going to tell my boy G about it. There's certain people I'll probably have maybe a list of like 2 or 3 people who I tell about my goals. And the reason why I'm going to tell them about my goals is because they're going to hold me accountable. And I know that I care so much about their opinion. And I'm not saying that I'm looking for external validation from these people, but these are people who I respect greatly. And because I care about their opinion, I don't want to make myself look like I'm not a man of my word. If I said I'm getting ready to accomplish a 20-piece handstand push-up, then I'm gonna tell James, I'm gonna tell G about it, and I'm gonna keep tapping in with him and letting them know, like, hey, look, this is where my progress is. This is where my progress is. And the same thing, I want them to feel comfortable with telling that to me too. And I'm gonna hold them accountable and hold their feet to the fire, and also, give them some big ups on it too. Like, man, when they're getting close, man, you got that shit in the bag. You know what I mean? Like, man, that whatever your goal is, James's planche push-ups, you got that shit. That's you already got it. You know what I mean? So, and the thing about it, one of the things I've realized about the people that you do want to tell your goals, those are actually going to be the people who believe in you the most. The people who hold you accountable are the people who actually care. Those are the people who actually believe in you and who actually want you to succeed to begin with. The people who are going to doubt you and who's going to put that negativity into, whatever situation that you got going on are usually the people who don't have any self-belief in themselves. They don't have any belief in themselves, and they're not going to have any belief in you. Or if they see you prospering, they're going to be like, it's almost going to be on some hater shit. Like, man, why did he get to blow up? You know what I mean? Like, he ain't nothing. He's not more special than I am. But when it all boils down to it, it's like, you're the person who actually put the work in. You're the person who actually dared to be great. And I think that's a huge factor. And I've seen it before on plenty of occasions. Could be starting up a YouTube channel. For me, when I started my YouTube channel up, I really wanted to keep it on the low just because I knew that nobody was really they're probably gonna look at me and think like, oh man, what is this dude doing? Like, man, you starting up like who's gonna watch you? You know what I mean? I've actually had people, I told a few of my friends, and some of them probably didn't really give a shit, but then there was one person in particular who was like, man, why? Like, oh yeah, nobody's gonna watch you. Nobody's watching. It's like, yeah, of course, when you first start up a YouTube channel, you're not gonna have any subscribers. You have to build up. You have to do those repetitions. Just like when you first start doing calisthenics, are you going to be able to do a muscle up? Are you going to be able to do a handstand push up? You're not going to. You got to build that strength up. Just like with the YouTube channel, you got to build your portfolio up of videos and, different topics, and sharpen your skills up in terms of your delivery and communicating your message. And then the channel's going to grow. You're going to grow as a person. But from what I've noticed about that is when it comes down to the bigger goals that you have in life, it's probably best to work in silence. Is it cheeky to put out fake goals just to see how certain people you're not sure on would react? Yeah, kind of like a red herring. That's actually kind of funny because to me, yeah. I guess you could do that. For me, I don't necessarily think that's something that I would partake in. Just on, there's certain different ways that you can operate in this world. And go, James, why don't you touch on that? Because I think that we were actually talking about this earlier as far as like that Drake line that you were talking about.
Oh yeah, it was funny. Yeah, I was mentioning that there's a quote that Drake has. He said, "Fake friends write the wrong answer on the mirror for you." And it's like a reference to Slumdog Millionaire, because in that show, basically, there's this kid. He was like killing the game, and he was like, "It's like who wants to be a millionaire?" He kept answering the questions right, and then the game host pretended to be super stoked for him, like he had his back, and then he writes on the mirror the wrong answer to the question, pretending that he like has the guy's back and is giving him the right answer, and basically was just throwing a banana peel under his feet. But I guess in terms of like, I don't know, I think that's kind of goofy, like the sending fake goals to your friends, or like, because to me, it's like, I wouldn't even be friends with someone that I'm like, would be testing like that. To me, it's like, if you even have to bother with that, I mean, but the truth is, I think a lot of times it's, it's not even that, necessarily the response is even in your worst interest. I think too, you could also be in a certain sense delusional, and your friend could actually be putting you on the right course, and you might be so hard-headed that you actually looked over the good advice just because they didn't say what you wanted to hear. So yeah, I don't know, I think doing like a fake thing like that is kind of like
yeah, I would say my opinion would be like this: what's done in the dark always comes out in the light. And me and you talked about this like last week, James. And then when we're talking about what people's opinions are, you or the little hate that they might have, or the negativity towards you that they might have in behind closed doors, it's always going to rear its ugly head. Same thing on the positive end as well. If you're somebody who's been putting in work, if you do 100 pull-ups a day, 100 push-ups a day, 100 dips a day, 100 squats a day. You're getting your calisthenics reps and sets in. You don't have to post it on social media. You don't have to tell everybody about your workouts. Eventually, your body's going to speak for itself. So, that work that you've been doing behind closed doors, it's going to show up when it comes down to, when you walk out of the door every day, when you go to the beach and you take your shirt off, people are going to know what type of work you've been putting in. Same thing happens in the mental space as well. Is if somebody's been, secretly putting that negative energy out there for you, you're going to definitely be able to tell that in the long run. They're going to slip up. One thing I realize about people in general is that, people always tell you who they are. It's our responsibility to believe them when they tell us. You know what I mean? Sometimes they don't tell us with words. Sometimes they tell us with actions. I feel like this is something that I've definitely peaked in terms of like the dating game or whatever. It's like for the majority of time, whenever you're dating a chick, she always lets you know who she is up front. She might not tell you exactly like, oh, well, I'm a bad person. She might not tell you, oh, I'm a cheater. She might not tell you, oh, I'm a gold digger. I'm this, I'm that. She's going to give you little hints. It's just like that whole thing we were talking about maybe a live stream or two ago with the subconscious mind and how the subconscious mind just gives you little hints here or there. Your conscious mind isn't really paying too much attention, but your subconscious mind is like letting you know, like, hey, look, go this way. Hey, do this, do that. And same thing with people. We do it as well. We give ourselves away. It's just part of human nature. And when people give you these signs, it's up to us to react in the proper way. So I don't think that you necessarily need to, pump fake your friends and tell them that, hey, look, I'm about to go do this, and then see what their reaction is. I think that part of genuine friendship is actually being genuine. So if you're around people who you can't be genuine around, then that might be somebody who you might not want to be around, or you might need to check yourself sometimes too when you start to kind of play these mind games and manipulation games with friends, or your girlfriend, anybody really, family, whoever.
Yeah, I think too that is almost like, yeah, that's something almost like, being with a woman and then, constantly giving her fake little tests or whatever. It's like one of those shows like the To Catch a Cheater or something like that. And it's like by the time they signed up for the show, it's like they already knew the truth about them, but they're just like, they couldn't trust their hunch. They couldn't trust their subconscious. They kept doubting themselves. They're like, I want it to be fake. It's kind of funny if you think about it. It's actually like no different than the insecurities we were talking about it. It's like they know they're dating a cheater, but it's an insecurity they don't want to accept. So they're like, okay, if she passes this test, then I can go, I can really go under my bunker. Because the funny thing is too about that whole thing is like even the ones that don't cheat in that situation, it's like doesn't even prove anything. But anyways, I just thought that was
I think that's actually a good one. And a lot of times, one thing I realize is that when you give people bait, a lot of times they might not even wanted to take the bait to begin with, but sometimes when you lure them into a trap, sometimes they fall for it anyway. So you might have actually did yourself a disservice. And at the end of the day, man, nobody's perfect. And, sometimes people who maybe do have your best interests at heart, maybe, show a couple hater tendencies here and there. We're all flawed human beings. I think that a lot of times with relationships in general in life, you're going to go through tough times. I can think about, some of my better friends in life, and, we've had, I wouldn't say like beefs, but we've had times where we might have been, not as good on speaking basis. I remember one of my best friends, as a matter of fact, we got into it in Japan, almost got into a fist fight. And we wouldn't speak to each other for, man, I don't even know how long it was. It was months, but we wouldn't talk to each other. And we had a bunch of mutual friends. And, I remember at work, because we worked together as well, he was like, one of our friends was just like, man, I don't like this shit that you're not talking to him. He's not talking to you. And then one of my friends in Japan ended up setting us up because he was having a barbecue. And I was like, hey, oh, is such and such going to be there? And he was like, nah, he's not going to be here. And then he had asked the same thing because he invited him to the barbecue too. He's like, hey, is John going to be at the barbecue? If so, I don't want to go. And he was like, nah, John's not going to be at the barbecue. So then eventually I went to the barbecue, and of course we both show up right at the same time, like, oh, this motherfucker just set us up. But that's just kind of the way life goes. We kind of get into these little riffs with people sometimes, and sometimes at the end of the day, if it's still somebody who's super close with you, it could be like a brother. You know what I mean? Brothers get into arguments, brothers get into shit all the time, and then at the end of the day, you still blood. But and right now, I'm gonna take a little breather and tell you guys again about this mastermind group that we have going on. And me and James, this is gonna be basically we're gonna have 1 week grace, like a 1 week period to sign up. And what it's gonna be is so basically, let me go over exactly what it is again. So basically, we're gonna be doing meetings every like 2 times per month. We'll do growth meetings. We'll have different topics. We're gonna have people are gonna share questions. People are gonna share information. I'm thinking assigned readings, different books that we might read or different articles that we might want to read to help inspire growth. Also, we're going to be having different challenges as far as working out to help inspire growth on the physical end. We're trying to grow mentally, physically, spiritually, every single way possible. But we're going to do like 2 Zoom meetings every single month. And eventually, what we want to do is we want to do what me and James like to call blitzes. But what it would be is more of like a retreat, but it's like a growth retreat where we going hard on calisthenics. We're going to have fun too. But me and James will probably set these up separately outside of the group, like basically the Zoom meetings. But this would be something down the line as well that people who's in the growth mastermind will be first in line with. But for the first week, we're going to do offer a sign up fee for $25 a month. And then if you sign up after that first week, the price will go up. So that's what it's going to be. And we're going to be doing these meetings. This is going to be a chance to network with like-minded individuals. It's going to be a chance to grow. It's basically going to be like these live chats on steroids, because me and James have way deeper conversations than this off the air. And of course, we get a little bit more raw and more real. So it's certain things we don't necessarily need to share with the entire world. Kind of like the whole thing with sharing your goals. You know what I mean? It's like you can, okay, for sure. And you can I feel like there's only so far you can actually take a lot of stuff on YouTube, because you don't necessarily need to show your hand to everybody in the world. Almost like the same thing when it comes down to social media and different things of that nature. Art says count me in. You'll see me in there. Okay, yeah. So guys, let me actually post this in here. I'm gonna post my email address in there. You guys can hit me up in my email address, and that's how you'll get the information on how to sign up.
Yeah, and I think I'm just so excited too, because I feel like, I can't wait to see what everybody's gonna bring. Because like we've been talking to some of our viewers, and it's like, man, you guys are some high performing people. It's like, and already just doing this for about a year, I've already come in contact with so many high level people in like so many different areas of life. I mean, had the chance to train with professional athletes, and it's just, we want to pretty much just create the best growth environment you could possibly think of. And I'd say mainly the main focus is more on the mental side, but obviously we're going to be tapping into calisthenics and diving into specific different arenas of life. But then also, yeah, I mean, the thing is too, with these companies, they basically are playing God nowadays. Basically some of these companies are, making rules like they're the US government. And, basically we kind of want to make it, go to a different platform where we're not having to basically conform or basically have to put, titles that are going to get, viewership. On a different platform, we don't have to, use certain, thumbnails that are going to do well with the algorithm, certain keywords in the titles that are going to do well with the algorithm, or even, topics. It's like, we have to be careful on, don't use that keyword because, your thing's going to get shut down. Even if you might not agree with something, it's like, there's so many of these, different, I guess, rules in place that we want to kind of have a place where we can just, go completely unfiltered, talk about whatever comes to our mind and not have to constantly be thinking while we're talking, oh, is this going to get us, um, downgraded? So we're the, 10th ranked piece of content instead of the first ranked. It's like we can just kind of go completely unfiltered, raw, and then we can actually exchange information a bit easier.
Yeah. Another thing I want to touch on too, as far as when it comes down to these platforms, is like one thing I've realized, like from social media, YouTube, different things of that nature, is that a lot of times the popular people, or I wouldn't necessarily just say the popular people, but maybe popular topics, popular, entertainers, whoever it may be, are basically thinking on very low levels. And one thing I've realized about my subscriber base, I might not have the biggest subscriber base in the world. High octane calisthenics might not have the biggest subscriber base in the world, but at the same time, we have a very quality subscriber base. And I was talking to my boy G about this the other day, and he was telling me, he's like, man, dude, because I'm always kind of talking about growing a channel. I'm always talking about, expanding different things of that nature. And G's like, man, don't worry about expanding. You know, go in deeper with the people that you already have, because you already have enough people. And that is true, because I've met a lot of subscribers. I've had a lot of subscribers as online clients. I've actually met up with these people in person, all cool as hell. And it's like going deeper and building a deeper relationship with these people and building something that's has way more of a sturdier foundation, opposed to just going broader and broader and broader, is actually more appealing to me. And just like James said, we can talk about different subjects. And on top of that, man, it's like, I think most of the people out there who are watching this content are actually more so about performance. They're more so about growth. They're more so about getting better at their craft. And to me, that's what's really important. I don't really view, doing things for clicks as something that is an accomplishment. And me and James actually talked about this right before we got on the live stream. You could look at people who have a ton of subscribers, right? I feel like subscribers and like followers and all these different ways of showing your popularity is basically like a form of social currency, right? And a lot of times people equate social currency with somebody's character, their value, and also, which I think is probably the worst thing to do, equate it with their intelligence. And even when it comes down to actual monetary currency, people equate monetary currency with intelligence as well. And personally, I don't necessarily think that actually correlates side by side. Those things don't run parallel. I'm not saying that they're completely perpendicular, or I'm not saying that they run completely across or different directions, but I don't necessarily think that just because somebody's business savvy or just because somebody's able to build a cult of personality means that they're intelligent. And I think that actually, touching on the actual topic of insecurities, a lot of times people might not think that they're that intelligent because they haven't built up this high net worth, because they aren't able to build up this huge follower base on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it may be. When in all reality, that actually might mean that you have such a unique perspective, and because you're zagging when everybody else is zigging, that you actually are a little bit deeper of a thinker. Because if you think about a lot of these social media platforms, the people who get popular are more gimmicky people. And I'm not knocking anybody who is popular, because there's definitely some people who have big follower counts, big subscriber bases, that actually have quality content. But if you look at most of the content out there, it's low level shit. Like, man, I even some shit that pops up on my YouTube feed a lot. A lot of the shit that gets all the clicks is gossip. And like, to me, gossip is like some weak shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really like gossip. I like content that's going to be informative, that's going to help me grow. And when it comes down to, even when I watch, when it comes down to sports and shit like that, like I would say more so than any other sport, I'm a boxing fan. And even when it comes to boxing, I like to actually watch content where people kind of break down the fighter's technique, when they break down why they think somebody might win, or people's predictions. I don't like hearing about gossip. And a lot of this shit is like gossip and he said, she said shit. And Tracy Thompson says, I'm in support of this. Sign me up for sure. Tracy, you definitely gonna get up in the group. I actually hit you back on an email earlier today when you sent me an email. And it's so good as well as rare to find spaces like this. So I appreciate both of your work. Appreciate that, brother. And oh well, this one we could talk about this in the other thing. We're not we.
That's a perfect example of something. It's like one way or the other, it's like you're screwed. So it's like we're not gonna bother, taking the bait and
Yeah,
get to shut down.
exactly. If you want to hear what our take is on that, you can sign up for the mastermind group, and we'll chop it up on any subject because I mean I'm not to cut you off, James, but there's a lot of people who have questions about that, and there's a lot of information out on YouTube. There's a lot of information out on social media. There's a lot of information everywhere that's telling you is what it is. This is what it is, and you don't. And one thing I realize about people who don't necessarily know are kind of on the fence about, oh, should I do this? Should I not do that? Should I, follow this workout routine? Should I follow this diet? And they're kind of in that space where they don't really aren't very informed. It's hard to tell like who's actually giving me the right information. Is this person giving me the right information? Does this person have my best interest? Is this person just trying to make money off of me? So to me, that's definitely one of those things where we need to chop it up in the mastermind group.
Yeah, man. I think too this whole thing, at least for me, like my reason for doing this is like just purely focusing on growth. And I guess I'm trying to think of like a good analogy to use, but I kind of view growth as like the parent, that pursuit, and then you have all these little sub pursuits underneath growth. And to me, it's like I want to find, and be a part of a group that's focused on tools and strategies on how to improve, and not just improve, because you can give practical advice like, oh, hold your elbows like this when doing a pull-up, or like different little technique tweaks, but that's not going to teach me, how am I going to pick up this completely separate pursuit in a completely different area of life and become proficient at it fast. And I think one of the reasons kind of we connected was because we kind of take the same mindset that we use for training, and we apply it to literally every single area of life. And it's like they're all different training grounds. So it's like I'll take an idea that might work in training. So you could say like a concept of greasing the groove, and then you could try applying greasing the groove to literally any profession. You could try that like in real estate. Maybe you grease the groove on, cold calling people and, asking them if they want to lease out a place, and you do it randomly throughout the day, 7 days a week. But I think the whole idea is basically focusing on the parent, which is growth, and basically coming up with different strategies and ideas on what's going to work for growing and improving at every single area of life. What are changes we can make that not are just going to benefit us in one area and maybe sacrifice in another. That would be something like, sleeping less, to work more hours. That's, you're sacrificing in one area to grow in another. We're trying to look for different growth ideas that are going to benefit all areas of your life and not just a select few.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, like, man, what James was talking about the way we connected. And I think one of the biggest ways me and James connected is at 7 days a week. And this is something that we were both doing before we even met each other. And honestly, I think 7 days a week mentality, that mindset is really just something that literally can, speed up your growth process, sharpen that learning curve so much. And it's one of those things I want to share with this growth mastermind as well. And like another aspect of this is we aren't necessarily just looking, we're not here to talk at you guys. Like this is something where we want to sharpen our tools. Me and James are always sharpening our tools. We sharpen each other's tools, but we want to sharpen other people's tools. And then I think the most rewarding aspect of it is to see how proficient everybody else gets in that growth mastermind, and how everybody can, be somebody else, be somebody. It's like an iron sharpens irons type of circle. And
And that's definitely true. And I think too, that's like one of the rewarding things about, because you have a hunch that something works. So let's say, for example, our training style it's like one of those things. If it works for you, that's great. But is it really the process or was it you? And the thing is, we've found that this isn't something that's unique to us where it's like, oh, this is what worked for us. It's like we've extracted out the principles and then have tested them and found these things to work for all different types of people from all different backgrounds. And like, it's really cool to see, watching transformations. And I've seen transformations that absolutely blow out of the water. Some of the best, YouTube transformations out there that you're going to see, and the person didn't even really, they don't want to be public, they don't want to bother taking pictures, but it's like you actually watch that change. And I think if we can just, we've kind of found a few, I'd say, fundamental ideas that we've found to work pretty much across everything. And that's like the 7 days a week mindset. That's I'd say one of the fundamental, basically principles, but we're trying to look to keep on expanding and adding to that and, find proven methods that, work across all areas.
And one thing I add to that 7 days a week mindset is like the whole grease in the groove mindset as well. So, and Art, I know you commented on that. I'll get to that comment in a second. But the grease in the groove in the 7 days per week is almost like you're in a nonstop flow. So this really works well when you're actually doing the type of work that you enjoy and where you're doing the type of training you enjoy. Because me and James were talking about vacations earlier and talking about weekends and different things of that nature. It's like relaxation is just, basically a rest period in our reality. But when you're working towards a goal that you really are passionate about, when you're training toward with some form of training, calisthenics, whatever it may be that you're always passionate about. Like for me, I would probably say every single day from when I wake up in the morning until about 8, 9, maybe even 10 o'clock at night, I'm constantly greasing the groove, working out. I'm constantly greasing the groove, working on things for my clients. I'm constantly greasing the groove, editing videos. I'm constantly greasing the groove, shooting videos. And for me, these are all things I'm super passionate about. So like my day is like pure bliss. And when I'm taking little rest periods and little breaks, like I'll call up James, we'll have a conversation and we're just sharpening each other's tools. Because when you have a strong friend group that is productive, that like they say, you're the mean, you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. You're the mean of the 5 people you hang around the most. So if you have a strong group of people around you, of course you're going to be sharpening your tools up. So instead of shooting your shit talking about the chick whose back you just blew out last weekend, or talking about the football game or whatever it may be, you're going to be talking about progress. Yeah, you might throw in something here and there about, oh yeah, I met this girl, whatever, or, did you see that boxing match? But that's not going to be the meat and potatoes of your conversation. The meat and potatoes of your conversation is going to be growth. The meat and potatoes is going to be expansion. When I talk to James, it's always a growth mindset, a mindset talk. Sometimes, me and James, we like to joke around and like, man, comedy and humor is a part of life as well. We can't take any of this stuff too seriously. So that's we're always going to get some good laughs in too. When I talk to G, I'm talking to him about him buying investment properties, what type of, projects he's working on the side. When I talk to Kwame, I barely even have time to talk to him because he's always on the go, always grinding, always moving. So these are the type of people who I'm moving, bumping shoulders with. So this is the type of person that I'm going to be. And this is the reason why we want to put this group together as well. And Art says large followings aren't always what they're cracked up to be. Some people are Trojan horses. I definitely agree with that. And like I said, when it comes down to the gossip talk, when it comes down to, a lot of people putting out messaging and negativity out there, or even just kind of things just to get clicks. Like me and James always said, sometimes some of these people are literally just manipulating the system. A good businessman sometimes is a good scammer. They just know how to play on your emotions. Oh, yeah, you can eat this pizza and you can still lose weight. You can get in the best shape of your life by eating pizza instead of a salad. So a lot of times it's people who are telling you what you want to hear. That's what a pimp does. Pimps tell you what you want to hear. And there's a concept called a poverty pimp. I think we probably talked about it on the last live stream. And it's almost like telling people what they want to hear. Oh, you can get rich overnight. Oh, you should feel, this way because people been doing you wrong and yada, 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 but give me your money. So that's kind of like the way that works. And you might be right with many videos with more views or gossip, straight up rubbish. Must be from England. They're talking about rubbish, or maybe Hawaii. They be saying,
Hawaii, yeah.
yeah, they say Hawaii. They talk about rubbish too, and decided that honestly, it's much more important than doing things against my morals for clicks. Exactly. Like honestly, like man, I've gotten to the point now where it's like I never really have done anything for clicks. Sometimes I put some little funny shit out there just to kind of stir people up or to have people kind of guessing what I'm talking about. But at the same time, I think staying true to yourself and trying to grow as much as possible is always going to be the way to win in the long run. You could get the short term wins with the BS or the gimmicks or the clickbait and different things of that nature. But I think in order to actually build something that's sustainable, that can hold its own weight, you definitely got to come with something solid.
Man, that's definitely true. And I think too, like, this is another topic we touched on, but I think too, like, more and more lately, I've been realizing my biggest mindset shift, I'd say, from being like, early 20s to more late 20s is pretty much instead of chasing wealth, I'm chasing being valuable myself and viewing myself as investing into myself instead of. I feel like there's people that become wealthy that they become wealthy by investing in everything externally. So they might trade or they might do something like that, and I feel like you have to build up yourself as a source of value so that even if everything external was taken from you, and which it can actually be, um, you still hold all that value that you've been building up. And I feel like that kind of taps into growth because it's like you don't want to just build up a foundation or a building that if it's taken away, you don't know the blueprint on how to get it back. And I think too, a lot of times people are chasing something that's kind of more of a, it's a paper, it's a card tower. It's held up by something that doesn't have a solid foundation and a solid understanding. And I feel like that's kind of ties into like, working that dead end job that might pay a lot of money. It's like, I almost view that as kind of a house of cards because at the end of the day, it's like that type of job, you're not actually building any skill set up. You're selling off parts of your life in exchange for a currency, but you're not getting any level of growth for yourself out of that pursuit. And I think too, like switching that focus from being completely on building something outside of yourself versus that, viewing yourself as the asset. It's like, what can I do to make myself as an asset more valuable?
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's honestly that should be the goal of most young men because I think what you'll realize in the long run is if you put all this focus into building yourself up as an asset, making yourself valuable, making yourself more interesting, then the world is gonna realize that as well. And a lot of times when people, I was actually just thinking about this earlier when it comes down to just putting the work in. Like a lot of times people see you putting the work in when you don't even realize that they see you putting the work in. And a lot of times it just leads to different opportunities. Today I was at the coffee shop just editing a video and some random guy, I mean, granted, I don't even know if this would lead to any opportunities or anything like that. Some random guy comes up to me. He's like, "Hey man, you edit videos? Well, I shoot commercials and yada, yada, yada. You have a business card, let's keep in contact, whatever, whatever." So it's just that I'm not doing this to, I'm not editing videos and putting these things together with a specific task of like, oh, I want to make some money off of this. I'm just doing it because this is a skill set I'm building up. I'm building up a platform right now. I'm building up a community right now, and opportunities are going to come along with that. Just same thing as with the fitness stuff. Like I've had a few people reach out to me and ask me, did I want to do some fitness modeling? So it's like, these are things that I actually probably don't even want to do that. But at the same time, it's like opportunities come just because you've been putting the work in and you don't necessarily, you're not putting the work in just to get money. You're not putting the work in for any reward. You're putting the work in. The reward is the fact that you're getting better and that you're building yourself up. And Art says, what's your thoughts on semen retention? So we've actually spoken on semen retention on a couple different videos. I actually just had a video recently where I actually went in depth on what I think about semen retention. And personally, one thing, there's one aspect of it that I would say that I like, and that's having self control and discipline. And I think that's always a good thing when you can be disciplined and have self control. But one thing I will say about semen retention is that I don't necessarily believe all these like magical powers that it's supposed to give you. Like it doesn't clear your. I don't think that semen retention clears your skin up. I don't think it gives you a glow. I don't think that it makes you more attractive to women. I don't think it changes your pheromones. All these different things that people say. That all just comes with like I feel like a lot of these things are almost placebo effects. And granted, if that's what you're looking for, I mean, I don't think that you should go into anything looking to get some type of magical, powers from having something. Because if you're going into semen retention thinking that you're going to get more attraction from girls, it's almost like an oxymoron. Like, why would you go into semen retention where you're not going to be able to, have those type of relations with women, looking to get attention from women? It's like, are you trying to torture yourself? Like, I'm not knocking it. If I definitely believe in like solitude, and I believe that sometimes we need to go into a place where maybe we're a little bit disconnected from everything else and kind of focus on our goals. That aspect I understand. And I think that actually might be what the actual benefit of semen retention is. I think it's kind of like the unintended benefit is that because you're not focusing on women so much, because you're not focused on sex or porn or whatever it may be that's been a distraction for you, that you're able to put your energy, because basically what it is like, I definitely believe in like sexual energy is extremely powerful, right? But sexual energy is, if you believe in like the chakras, I believe it's like the sacral chakra. I mean, it's like the same chakra for sexual energy as it is for your creativity and your productivity. So basically, if you take that energy and I think this is where a lot of these people get this stuff from, is you take that energy and you redirect it into creating, or you redirect it into being productive, then you're gonna get more benefits in terms of a lot of other areas of your life. And obviously, if somebody's like addicted to sex or addicted to porn, that's going to take up probably hours out of their day. Not only, you know, actually meeting up with women, but you can be so addicted to things that you're like on dating apps, swiping all day long, trying to get some matches, or out trying to meet girls all day long, to a point where it's like, okay, well, did you work out today? Did you study your craft today? Did you work on your craft today? Did you, what type of work did you put in? And are you taking care of yourself? Are you sleeping? Are you not stressed out? Are you not in a scarcity mindset? So I think these type of unintended benefits are probably the good aspect of it, but I don't think that semen retention itself, the practice of not ejaculating, is going to actually help you out in anything. Because personally, from my experiences in life, and I know I'm ranting a little bit, and James, you might want to say something. From my experiences in life, when it comes down to having feminine energy in my life, I do way better. And I'm way more, I always believe in balance anyways. I'm a way more balanced person when I have a woman in my life who I can connect with on that level. And for me, I personally like to have that. I don't necessarily, I've been in places in my life, points in my life where I've had way too many women, and I was chasing after women. Was trying to juggle 5, 6 women at a time, which is crazy. And it was distracting the hell out of me, and I wasn't productive in other areas of my life. So James, I don't know if you want to touch on that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like though nature has like built-in mechanisms, right? So it's like if you haven't ejaculated in a while, it's like you're gonna be have more risk-taking tendencies. So if you're the kind of person that's like you're afraid to talk to a woman, and then you just assume nobody's checking you out even when they're glaring you down, then it's like, yeah, if you abstain for a week, you're gonna assume every single cue means that they're into you. So it's like a girl walks by you, you're like, yep, she was checking me out. Yeah, it must be the semen retention. Whereas like I think the reason why so many people believe it works so much is just because they were just like probably addicted to jerking off, and then so they pretty much couldn't even get themselves to think somebody might be checking them out, or even come close to having the balls to just go start up a conversation with someone that was checking them out. So I feel like if you're struggling with, having the nutsack to talk to someone, or you're maybe have a little bit of low confidence or self-esteem, maybe it'll give you like a slight boost to go make a more risky play. But like in terms of like all this, like over, I don't know, they come up with all kinds of crazy
Yeah, I
shit.
mean that whole thing
Clearing
about
up your skin, or that's all.
glow and clearing up your skin. It's like, man, honestly, it's like, dude, when it comes down to like clearing up your skin, like I'm 37 years old and I get mistaken for being in my 20s all the time. Women always tell me I have good skin and I'm not practicing semen retention. So it's like, to me, there's different ways that you can get these same benefits that they claim that you're going to get from semen retention. I'm not just saying, I'm not shitting on semen retention. I'm just saying that I don't necessarily think that like it is what it's all cracked up to be. And I'm not going to tell you that, like, I think the brother Art says right here, he says, hold on, Art has said, I feel you. I did it just to focus on being less hyper sex. I definitely, if that's a problem that you're having, and then practicing, controlling your sexual energy is going to be something that's going to be important. And I don't think that, I think that is valuable in itself. That's basically a part of kind of like getting control of yourself and finding that discipline. And there's definitely nothing wrong with that. And Art also says greasing the groove is so useful. I'm doing that right now during the stream with my diamond push-ups. Hey, that's exactly what we like to hear. So why me and James? Because me and James been getting it in all day long. I probably worked out I probably worked out like 4 hours today, to be honest with you. And yeah, man, grease the groove while you guys are watching these live streams or listening to these live streams. You could listen to these while you're going on a walk. You can listen to them or watch them while you're doing some push-ups, some pull-ups at the house. And Ben Martinez, how's it going, bro? What's going on, Ben Martinez? Glad you could stop through. And let's see, could you do a video on dissecting the nature of a simp? These simps are running rampant out in these streets. Hey, that's actually a good. It's funny that you actually say that because I actually have more conversations about simps with women than I do with men, and it's more so just on the fact that like I think it's actually a popular topic amongst women as well. I think women actually are the ones who actually bring it up to me more than anything. And it's more so just about like, I think women don't really realize it, but they're just not attracted to dudes who are simps. And they usually always, hear the term F boy, but that's usually what women are attracted to. And, a lot of times when dudes are like simping out of their mind, they don't realize that they're just basically I look at it like this. Number one, I think a simp is a dude I'll make a video on this in the future, but I think a simp is a dude who puts a woman on a pedestal to a certain extent. But when you put somebody on a pedestal, you're basically putting yourself in a mindset of scarcity. And people are very unattracted to desperate energy, and they're very unattracted to people who have a scarcity mindset. Usually, when somebody has an abundance mindset, it shows confidence, it shows that you're competent, and people are usually attracted to these type of qualities. And usually when you're not like desperate, that means that you usually have some value. So usually women are usually attracted to somebody who they feel like, I think me and you talked about this one time, James, and I think you were saying like women are attracted to a guy who they know can get a woman that's better than them or something of that nature.
It's so funny that it's not even, I don't even think it's something that can be faked. It's like, I think for some reason, I think there's a built-in mechanism, and I feel like it's always going to come to the surface. And I think I feel like women naturally want to know that you can do better than them. And I think, and it's gonna be like I was telling John, it's like it's like stuff that you can't fake. It's like, say for example, a girl actually agrees to go on a date with you. Well, it's like if you're crazy about her, there's no way you're just gonna cancel that to go do something else. But if you know you can do better, it's like, yeah, I have something else planned during that time. You're gonna cancel on them. But if you view them as like, oh my God, that's a 10 out of 10, like this chance comes, once every 3 years when I get lucky, it's like nobody that views something as a once in a 3 year 3-year opportunity is just going to cancel it because they want to go play disc golf with their friends or something like that. And I think kind of the nature of a simp is just, I view it as actually kind of like home buyers. I view it as like when we have these market manias that are like driving the prices up. It's like there's like a condo that's worth like 150K, and then you have like some simp from California comes in and bids 400,000 cash on a $150,000 condo. I think that's the home version of simping. It's overvaluing something. It's, you meet a 50th percentile girl and you're treating her like she's in the top 1%. And I think that the only country that it's really, I think, happens in is America. I think most other countries, and honestly though, for the good, because it's kind of funny. I was actually I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I'm in Arizona, I'm in Scottsdale, and it's like I see all these supercars. And behind those supercars is a simp. It's like it's a guy that, wants these like mediocre women so bad that it's like they go out and create like a multi-billion-dollar business just so they can meet these women. And it's kind of crazy because a lot of them might have shortcomings or something, or maybe you could say insecurities. Maybe they're not the best looking person, or maybe they're just naturally bad socially, so people tend to have a resistance to being around them. And they take that energy and, turn it into doing something crazy. But I noticed in Europe, like, it didn't really exist. And I think it's because, like, the men there weren't ever really in such a place of scarcity. It's like a 50th percentile, like, European guy. It's like they're still getting laid. They're having no trouble. Whereas, like, in America, I've noticed it's like there's a good proportion of guys that it's like their only option is just like pure trash. It's like they literally would have to, like, hook up with someone that weighs 270 pounds, just something that's just unmeasurable. And I don't think that really exists in other countries. And that's kind of like the makeup of a simp. It's like to tie it back into the housing thing. It's like they think every house is going to be taken off the market, so I've got to bid 5 times over asking because there's no inventory. I think that's what it ties back into.
Yeah, and if you guys want to watch a video where I basically talk about like an anti-simp mentality, basically the mindset, like it's a video that I made on my Patreon channel. So if you guys want to check it out, go to patreon.com/growththroughcalisthenics. I appreciate if you guys would support the content, and it's only $5 a month to join the Patreon. But this video I made is called "I'm Looking for Who's Looking for Me." And this is basically a quote that one of my old friends from the Bay Area always used to say. And, this dude was probably the biggest player I know. And I mean, when I mean a player, I'm talking about all the women knew about each other. He was just was the smoothest guy in the world that he was an older dude, like 50 something years old, not the best looking dude, not tall, none of that type of stuff. But he just had a way with words. And he hit me with a gem one day, and he was like, Jay, he was like, I'm looking for who's looking for me. You know what I mean? If she's looking for me, I'm looking for her. But I'm not chasing after anybody who's not looking for me. And when it comes down to like that simp mentality, they're always chasing after somebody who's not looking for them. And even if it's somebody who actually is looking for them, they're chasing after them so hard, and they're overvaluing whoever it is that they're chasing after so much that it almost turns the other person off. And then sometimes it can end up leading to this person getting used and, taken advantage of. And I think there's a comment someplace here. I'm going to run through these comments, but I actually want to get to prime example of a simp are dudes commenting under IG thotties about her looks and what they want to do to her having a membership to women's OnlyFans, complaining about women too much. Exactly. I think honestly, I think the majority of these dudes who are on like this red pill hype are all like angry simps. Like I see it. I remember there's a channel I used to watch on YouTube. It's not a red pill channel at all, but it's just a different type of channel where it's more of like a spiritual channel. I remember seeing a couple comments and dudes, and they're like, "Oh, reformed simp here," and it's like, it's like a lot of these dudes are just are so used to getting played by women. It's just, I don't know. I never really had that type of energy, but I think that when it comes down to the dudes who are commenting under these IG chicks pages and stuff like that, that's probably like the lowest level simping that you can get. Like that's dudes who live like at least the type of simps James is talking about driving supercars. Like those are dudes who might have insecurities and they might be getting played by the women, but they're actually still getting something because they're high performing in one area of life. So that IG stuff, like that's metaverse low level simping right there. That's honestly almost like, yeah, I don't even know what to even call that. I don't even like to me. One thing I really kind of notice about dating is that a lot of guys are almost like invisible to women, and it's because and when you have that desperate energy, it's almost like you make yourself invisible. Like I mean, I have conversations with girls I'm dating all the time about this, and it's like depending on how you carry yourself, like really it really makes a difference. And, a lot of times women will overvalue you as well. So you have to kind of think about that. It's like it can work in both ways. If you're walking around with your chest out and your head up high with a big smile on your face, a lot of times people are going to think that you're more important than you actually are. You can walk into any restaurant, any hotel, any environment. People are going to be like, "Oh, this guy he belongs here." You can have $2 in your bank account. And T Moore, I agree with James' statement. You have to increase your self worth. That is what makes you your best, and you will then present to the world as your best. Stay true to your core values and principles. 100%, definitely agree with that. And yeah, man, that's basically what me and James are all about: investing in yourself. Honestly, ironically enough, one of me and James's first videos that we ever made for High Octane Calisthenics was a video about your best investment is in yourself. I think that's the name of the video. But that was one of the first videos that we shot. And it's still to this day is like an evergreen topic because it's 100% true. Your best investment is always going to be yourself. It's not going to be Bitcoin. It's not going to be Tesla. It's not going to be anything else. These things fluctuate. They're hyperbolic. They go up and down. They're volatile. I mean, not hyperbolic. They're volatile, so they're always going up and down. But when you invest in yourself, you're investing in something that you have control over, and it's going to be a firm foundation. Ishmael, do you think we should ever chase after women or let them chase you, or at least show interest first? I don't like just walking up, chatting to attractive women unless she shows me interest. I mean, I think it's just different for everybody. I'm definitely not like a dating coach, and I'm definitely not somebody who would ever try to tell somebody their method of, dating, because everybody has a different strategy when it comes down to dating. Some people are like, man, I have a friend in Japan, my boy D, he's like 6'8", basketball player. Like this dude doesn't need to talk to. He doesn't need to approach women because when we go out to the clubs, the women come approach him. When he's on dating app, I'm pretty sure like just on the fact that he lists he's 6'8", he's probably getting 1,000,000 matches. So his strategy is going to be different than my strategy. Like I can't play it that laid back. I can't play it that cool. So I actually have to approach women.
Oh man, that's funny. I have to say though, to kind of touch on that one video we made in Hawaii, because it's so funny. That one actually, like, it never got any push. That thing was like, it's dead out there. But man, that thing was like, it's like day by day, it's like, the stock market, crashing. I'm like, that video is like hitting the nail more and more on the head by the day, because it's like, it was funny too, because I knew we were like at the top of the bubble right back then. We were making that video. And I was just like looking at places. I'm like, there's nowhere to invest. It's like, cryptocurrencies through the roof, stocks are through the roof, real estate's through the roof. And I'm like, oh man, there's a huge crash coming. It's like, really the only thing left to invest in right now is actually invest in yourself. And you're not going to be able to make money in any other investment. And then sure enough, it's like, man, everything since then is pretty much crashed. And it's like, now with interest rates climbing to like probably over 6%, the housing market's coming next.
7.
So it's like, it's just so funny though. Like, when you kind of plant that, seed or whatever, and then you can kind of see, it's like the things we're talking about now, could be viewed, 2 or 3 years from now. And, I think that's honestly kind of the beauty of this like kind of growth group is because you can actually track the progress and like actually check in with your old self. Like, what was I thinking like a year ago? How, like, what was my thought process, back in 2022? How was I thinking back in, 2021 when I was in Hawaii? Like, what track was I on, or like what trajectory was I on?
Mm-hmm. And dude, this actually reminds me of that live stream we did like maybe one or two live streams ago, where the name of the live stream was sending gifts to your future self. Joining a group, a mastermind group, where everybody's looking to grow and network and become the best version of themselves is basically the exact thing of sending a gift to your future self, because you have no other choice but to level up and step your game up when you're in a group of individuals who's leveling up and people who are sharp. You know what I mean? Steel sharp steel. So, that's one of the reasons why me and James are starting up this growth mastermind. So if you guys are just now getting into the chat and you guys are interested in joining the growth mastermind, like we said, 2 times a month, we're going to be doing meetings. We're going to have required readings for the group. We're going to have required workouts for the group, different things of that, challenges. So if you guys are interested, hit my email address. Link is in the description box, travelcynics@yahoo.com. For the first week, it's going to be $25 to join the group. After that, it's going to go up. But we'll give everybody a week to join up. We're going to have a limited amount of spots, too. We don't really want this group to get too big. So if you guys are interested, go ahead and join the Growth Mastermind group. Inquire about it at travelcynics@yahoo.com. And Art says, what's your thoughts about cutting as a vegetarian? I want to experiment with no chicken for the rest of the year. My stats are 74 kilograms of lean mass, 34% body fat, 190 centimeters, 6'3". Okay. Daily calories. I think your daily calories are too low to be. Those are way too low, actually. As far as, I mean, if to be honest with you, this is kind of going to be a difficult question to answer online. I mean, just over a live stream. But I would say that you can cut on a vegetarian diet. It's just going to be, number one. There's going to be so many different factors that go into it. It's going to be your workout. It's going to be your cardio, your calories in versus calories out, and also the fact that you don't want to just try to lose all this weight overnight. You want to go through the process, basically slow and steady. I wouldn't necessarily recommend basically starving yourself. 1,600 calories a day is starving yourself. Like, honestly, I probably eat close to 4,000 calories a day. And like, granted, I have a lot of activity during the day, but I definitely don't ever recommend doing anything like that that's super unsustainable. But if you guys are interested in training with me, you guys can go to my website, travelsaints.com. I do one-on-one coaching. Most of my clients are actually come from my YouTube channel. So if you guys are interested, go there and sign up for some coaching, and we can talk about uh, the most effective ways to lose weight, get in the best shape, and improving calisthenics performance. I just shared like a few of my clients last week just hit their first muscle ups. One of them hit a 3-piece on his first try, and it was just from some of the extra. So we had only been working together for like 3 weeks. And let's see, Art. Yeah, I think there's more sex happening over here. Sex is less of a big deal in continental Europe too, but the whole 80-20 somewhat applies. I'm from the UK. Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, really what it all boils down to when it comes down to that 80-20 thing that people talk about is that the top 20% of men are the ones who are like putting the work in. So granted, if you're like somebody who's been working out, you're somebody who's been getting your paper right, you're somebody who's been working on yourself in some aspect of life, you're gonna be able to get more women just on the fact that like you just have more to offer. Like when it comes down to people wanting to be around you, even when it just comes down to friendships, you have to have something to offer. You have to bring something to the table. So, if you're just some dude who's sitting at home watching Pornhub all day and, swiping on Tinder and not getting any matches and working at McDonald's, like no disrespect to anybody who's living that type of lifestyle. But if you want to actually optimize your life, you're going to have to make some major changes. And, you can't expect, you know, you can't expect, big results without putting any work in.
And I gotta say, I just had this thought. I was like 80-20 rule. So that's 80% of women go for 20% of the men, and I was
Oh,
just
is that what that is? I didn't even.
I think so.
I took it a different way.
But I was thinking, I'm like, who's going for the bottom? Uh, in that, who's going like if you're in that 20% group, why are you even shooting for that bottom 80% women? It's like, just by virtue of that, to me, that sounds like a men's problem um, for setting their standards far too low. Because it's like, why would that even? Because it's kind of said as something. It's like, oh, it's unfair. Life, 20% of men get 80% of the women. And it's like, why are you aiming so low at the as 80% of women are
Yeah.
acceptable to you?
It's definitely not to me. I mean, yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And honestly, like, man, one thing I've really realized just from my growth journey and I don't think it's necessarily talking about women is something that is not necessarily even like even when me and James are talking in our personal conversations, like we talk about women sometimes, but at the same time, that's definitely not the majority of what our conversations are about. Our conversations are mostly about growth in other areas of life. Like women is just like, oh, we might mention a woman that we're dating or mention a woman that we met or something of that nature. But one thing I've realized is that as you grow, the type of women that you're even looking for is going to be completely different than when you're, in your kind of more, I would say, your earlier growth stages. And for me, I remember when I had an Airbnb business in Japan. I wasn't really focused on anything except for just making money, going out partying, meeting as many women. The type of women that I was into back then are completely different. Well, I wouldn't necessarily completely different. I actually had decent taste back then too, but I definitely had way less lower. I had way lower standards back then than I do now, for sure. And I would say the type of women I'm actually more into now is like women who are actually high performers, like a woman who has a good career, a woman who's like extremely impressive in her fitness pursuit or just a high performer in general, because we have more in common to talk about. Our energy is actually the same. We're more goal oriented. We're more we're vibrating on a higher level. So that's something that you'll realize, and you'll kind of realize that these Instagram chicks, these girls who are just baristas and bartenders and shit like that in their personal life, like they really have no value. So it's not anything to be putting up on a pedestal anyways. Like their looks are going to fade faster than, like by the time that you even level up, a lot of times these girls are already going to be has-beens. Like that's just the way that works. Like 3 years from now, like you're not even going to want to deal with them chicks.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the brutal truth. But I think that's actually kind of funny because I feel like there's so many things in life like that. It's like you chase something and you want something so bad, and then you climb up the mountain, you don't even want it anymore. I think too, it's like kind of like even to a certain extent, like the money pursuit. It's like, you might be chasing the money pursuit because you like, think you want to buy a Lamborghini, and then it's like you have enough money to buy a Lamborghini. You're like, I don't want to waste money on a Lamborghini. That's stupid. It's like, I feel like it's the same with so many areas of life. It's like you might chase something, and that might have been like what you got into the journey for. Like you might have got into calisthenics, and you're like, oh, I want to be bodied up like that guy. And then it's like you get so hooked on the pursuit. It's like all you care about now is like, oh, I'm trying to chase down this variant of the muscle up. And you forgot all about the whole physique pursuit
Yeah.
by the time you achieve it. And then you get the physique. You're like, I don't give a shit. It's like, I'm going to look at myself in the mirror now because I have a physique. It's like, I feel like that's like kind of the trick in life. It's like you have like this um, target you're chasing at, but really it's a ghost. It's like a lot of these women that you might be idolizing. It's like when you take off the whole facade of it and you dress it down, it's really a lot of times an abstraction. It's, an illusion. And when you really kind of see the truth behind it, it's a lot of times not as beautiful as you expected. And that's not even to knock those women because they're on their own personal like growth journey as well. So they're trying to improve as people. Um, but it's like that really just ties into the whole like there's so many pursuits in life that you're going to go on that, the pursuit is the true value. And when you get to that end prize, you're going to like, it's gonna be right there for you, and you're gonna say, "No, I don't even want that."
Yeah. I always look at like I think we were talking about earlier as far as like goals. And I guess sometimes women can be a goal as well, but like goals are kind of like bus stops. Like you make several stops along your journey. And like for instance, today I hit my personal record in handstand push-ups. I hit a 20-piece handstand push-up. I kind of been like pursuing this for a while. But now it's just like, all right, now I hit it. Now I'm on to the next. So it's like, what's the next movement? What's the next goal? What's the next thing that I'm trying to accomplish when it comes down to calisthenics? So, a lot of times women can be like this as well. Like we might think that it's something that we really, really want, something that we really, really need. But in our reality, once we actually get it, we realize like, oh, well, maybe it wasn't all that it's cracked up to be. And real quick, Tracy, I already put up on your email regarding the mastermind. You said tune into this live stream. What can I do from here? So Tracy, I'm gonna reply to your email again. I'm gonna give you. We're gonna do the payments through Cash App. That we're gonna do the monthly payments through Cash App. I'm gonna send you the Cash App for the live stream. I mean for the growth mastermind group. Again, if you guys are interested, hit up my email travelsthenics.com or travelsthenics@yahoo.com, and we're gonna do the payments through Cash App. And then we'll link up and give you guys all the links and everything like that to get into the group. And we'll probably do them, I think, through either Zoom or something like that. But we want to get interactive with you guys. This is a community. We do enjoy talking, me and James going back and forth on these live streams, but we also want to, see you guys face to face, hear your input. It's good to speak face to face with you guys, and even if it is through the internet. And I've been more outgoing. Ganjin 88. We haven't seen you in the chat in a minute, but glad you made it. I've been more outgoing this year, made a few friends. I'm reaching a point soon where I want to approach and date women, but my self-development is priority for sure. I think sometimes, like me and James always say, there's seasons to this journey of life. And I think that a lot of times we put the cart before the horse, so to speak. And a lot of times we don't take the time to develop ourselves, and we end up trying to chase after a woman, or we try to end up chasing after, some pursuit that's a little bit further than where we are actually on our journey. For instance, if you're starting off calisthenics and you're trying to learn how to do the human flag before you can even do 10 pull-ups. So, or just like you said, you want to get your self-development down, and before you start, trying to pursue a relationship with a woman. But sometimes I will say that the opposite can be true too with calisthenics, and when it comes down to women. We can develop ourselves so much, and then we actually don't have the confidence to actually do certain movement, or we don't have the confidence to get what we actually deserve in life. And I could think about this example when it comes down to me training planche and some other movements in calisthenics. When I went down to Brazil, I was doing like handstand push-ups with some of the guys in the calisthenics team that I was training with down there. And my friend Guillermo was like, "Man, you need to start training for planche." And I was like, "Man, I'm not training for. I can't do the planche." He was like, "Man, you're strong enough. You need to start training for it. Like, stop. Like, some people try to do things too early, but you're taking too slow to do this. And sometimes we can put all the work in, and we actually don't harvest what we worked for. And a lot of times, and then sometimes we try to harvest too soon. So, a lot of times it's one of those things where you kind of have to find the balance. You don't want to harvest too soon, but then you also don't want to harvest too late because you might miss it.
Man, that's where I was gonna take it. Like, there's like, to me, it's not an excuse. Like, you're working on yourself. You're like, you just said, you want to start dating women. Then start right now. It's like,
Yeah.
just because you're on your growth process doesn't give you a mental excuse. Like, no matter how far along you go in your journey, it's going to be just as difficult to start a conversation up with someone you're attracted to, even if you're like whoever movie star or athlete you want to be in the world. It's not like, it might be easier, but it's not going to be any less difficult from having a set of nutsack perspective.
And Ganjin 88, I don't know how old you are, but if you're a younger guy, like if you're in your early 20s or you're in your teens or something like that, like the woman who you're dating right now is not going to be the woman you marry anyways. Like, I mean, 99% of the time. And a lot of times, a woman who you might end up dating in the next week or two, you're probably not even going to remember what this girl's name is 5 years from now. Or shit, probably not even a month from now, you probably won't even remember what her name is. Tracy Thompson with the 999 super chat. Salute. Appreciate it, Tracy. Man, always showing support. Definitely appreciate that. But yeah, man, when it comes down to the dating game, it's like, man, me and James talk about this a lot in terms of like, we can't take life too seriously. Of course, we need to be serious. We need to have goals. We need to achieve. We want to be high performers. We all want to do that. But when we take things too seriously, it's almost like we're putting too much stress on ourselves. We're kind of in that desperate energy. Life is honestly funny. It's like there's so many funny things that happen throughout life. A lot of times, if you just change your perspective on things that might have made you cry yesterday could make you laugh today. And I think that's definitely something that we kind of all need to tap into, that kind of comedic standpoint of life, that comedic perspective.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Like that was the first thing I was thinking when I saw his comment saying he's like waiting. It's like, dude, full send, dude. Just go
Yeah.
go up and like humiliate yourself if you've never chatted up a woman before or you're new to it. It's like laugh at yourself. And then it's like pretty soon it's like you're gonna have such an abundance that it's like you're not even gonna realize why you made such a big deal out of it in the first place. And I think that's another thing too, like um any new pursuit you start out with in life, you're going to start out as a fool in that pursuit. It's like you're not going to pick up anything significant that has real value without being a fool. It's like, to start up a YouTube channel, it's like you got to be a fool. You got to be that guy that's like making a serious video and you got 35 subscribers and people look at it like, oh, who's this guy talking to 35 subscribers? It's like, if you want to be, I don't know, programmer. It's like you got to make some stupid bugs that will make you cringe. 6 months down the line. That's just how life works. It's like you have to make a fool of yourself. Yeah, if you want to do handstands, it's like you got to be that goofy, oversized dude. Trying to do handstands that I mean, shit, I practically broke my foot like 3 weeks ago trying to do handstands on gymnastics rings. I'm still a fool when it comes to the rings. It's like I feel like too, it's like I don't know, when it comes to like chasing things in life, I feel like sometimes it's like we're so worried about not humiliating ourselves that it's like we miss out on all these amazing things. And like the only price tag of those things was literally just a little bit of social shaming, I guess, so to say.
Yeah, no, definitely. Honestly, man, like I agree with James 100%, man. Like I definitely understand it, like that you want to work on yourself. And I do believe in having a certain period of solitude, but I don't think that it should be some extended period. I think that we should all have balance in our life. Like I said, for me personally, somebody had asked about the semen retention question earlier. I do better in life when I have feminine energy in my life. When I have a woman in my life, or maybe I'm dating a couple different women at the same time, I usually tend to be a little bit more calmer. I'm more pleasant to be around, and I can kind of take things a little bit easier. So that's just me personally. I think you might notice that if you do kind of get into that dating game a little bit now, that it might take some of the pressure off of you. You know what I mean? Because you're not. I almost feel like when you tell yourself that you're not allowed to have something and until you improve to a certain amount of time, then you are kind of putting something on a pedestal because you feel like you don't deserve it yet. And we all deserve to have that energy in our life. We all deserve to have a woman in our life. And, for me, I've been dating ever since I was a teenager. So for me, it's like something where it's kind of always been something I've done in my life. But, you'll come to find out that you can level up, you can self-improve at the same time as dating. And I think that's something that you're going to have to learn anyways, because the opposite is going to happen if you don't do that. You got to think about it. So if you're spending all your time self-improving, you don't have any balance in your life. Once you start dating a woman, trust me, you're going to spend a lot of time with her. And especially if you don't have that much experience, you're going to get to a point where it's like you're going to want to spend all your time with her. And then next thing you know, all your self-improvement shit and all your workout schedule and whatever your mission is that you've been on is going to go right out the window. And next thing you know, you're going to end up fat, broke, you know, you slacking on your skill set, and then guess what? The girl's going to be like, I can do better. So you got to have that balance in life. And I'm not telling you this to like talk shit, but I'm just telling you this because it happens. And I've seen it happen plenty of times.
I mean, especially if that's like your main goal too behind this whole pursuit is like that you're gonna be slamming right into a brick wall with a race car. And it's like I'm telling you right now, like if you're on this journey or like you're even watching this with like some hope that it's like you're gonna watch us, we're gonna get you in better shape, get you the mindset, and it's like you're gonna meet someone. You're like you're driving 110 miles an hour down the wrong street. It's like you're gonna like because what's gonna happen, you're gonna get exactly what you're looking for, but then you're gonna revert right back into your old self, and it's like slowly over time, it's like you're gonna degrade, and then it's like it's gonna be a cycle. It's like she's gonna leave you. We're gonna see you in the chat again, 2 years from now, and it's gonna start back over. You're gonna build yourself up,
Or better yet, you're going to be in a red pill chat. But yeah, man, I think honestly, it's all about balance in life, man. Like, even though me and James, we both work super hard. Trust me. Like, me and James work most of the day, but we definitely have our play. We definitely laugh. You know what I mean? We definitely enjoy. We're both younger. I would say we're both younger guys in the grand scheme of things. I mean, I'm 37. James is 27, but we're both young men who like to enjoy ourselves. So at the end of the day, balance is always key, but you always want to keep your eyes on the prize and make sure that this is one thing I probably would recommend for you if you're going to start dating around is like, make sure that you put those boundaries up front, that your self-improvement and what you have going on, your mission is more important than maybe going on a date and letting the chick know like, hey, look, like even this chick I'm dating right now, I'm getting ready to fly overseas and visit this girl who I've been kind of dating for a while. And I told her, I was like, hey, I need X amount of time every day to do this and that. Like we can kick it. All that is all good, but I work out 3 hours a day. I work X amount of hours a day. I need time to kind of be to myself, and then whatever else is left over, we good with that. And Lante Goolsby, what's the deal, fellas? What's going on? And he says, I'm 34 now. I've been with my wife since 21. That's actually, honestly, I think that's actually pretty rare nowadays, but definitely congratulations on that because that's a pretty rare situation. So if you can actually be in, that type of relationship, I actually had a kind of a back and forth with one of my friends earlier this week. Me and him kind of went back and forth in terms of the earlier that you meet somebody, the more satisfied you're going to be because you're not going to have seen all these options and be comparing everybody to you're not going to compare every other woman that you've been with to your current girlfriend and then she she doesn't do this, she doesn't cook as good as she did, or her ass isn't as fat as this one, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like you get into you're able to have a little bit more gratitude.
I don't know, I gotta say on that one, I've been in two relationships.
That wasn't my argument. That was actually my friend's argument.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I don't necessarily agree with that because I feel like
I think two things would be true at once.
Yeah. But anyways, next.
Yeah, no, I think you could look at it I think it's just based on your perspective. You can look at it that way, or you can look at it as, at least the way I look at it, because I'm not married and I haven't been with the same woman for that amount of time. So, but we're both on different journeys as well. The way I look at it is that I haven't found a woman who I want to be with long term or have children with. So for me, it's like I'm learning along the way about different qualities that I'm looking for from a woman. And now I feel like I am at an age right now. I'm at a maturity level where I've had enough experience to the point where it's like, oh, I don't accept this. This is a quality I'm looking for. This is a quality I'm looking for. This is a quality I'm looking for. And if I can find all these things and these are my non-negotiables, I'll move forward. And Ganjin88, thanks for the advice, and a little push is what I need sometimes. Definitely. We all need a push in life. That's the reason why we're doing this mastermind group. But guys, we've been on this live for a minute, hour and 40 minutes to be exact. So I think we're going to end it here. Again, if you guys are interested in joining the Growth Mastermind, hit up my email address, travelstenics@yahoo.com. I'll give you guys the details on how to get into the Growth Mastermind. It's going to be $25 a month. We're going to do 2 meetups every single month, online meetups, that is, group sessions. And we'll give you a little bit more information in the email. And look forward to seeing you guys. It's going to be a limited amount of spots, $25 a month if you sign up this week, but the rate's going to go up. There's going to be a limited amount of spots in the mastermind group. Also, sign up for my Patreon channel if you guys want to support the channel, support the movement. Patreon.com/growth through calisthenics. If you guys are looking for one-on-one coaching, hit up my website, travelstenics.com. I do online coaching. I also have some programs you guys can scoop on there as well. Custom programs at 12weekshred.com. Anyways, guys, hope everybody's having a great evening, great morning, great day, wherever you guys at. If you guys are watching this on a playback, hope you guys are having a good day as well. Peace.